Prices for starters on the trade market are wild. Should the Braves even still try to get a guy? Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, December 22nd. Your source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Not a ton of overlap here today. Spent 2,700 words on the newsletter, writing about the decision to go for floor versus ceiling this offseason by the Braves. Was it the right move, or should they have gone for impact at the top of the lineup versus filling the holes everywhere else on the roster? So go check that out, bravestoday.com. Again, free or paid subscriptions. Either way, help us out a ton over here. We're probably part of the Believe Podcast Network, presented to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com to get started. We saw another starting pitching trade over the weekend. Shane Baz, late on Friday night, got moved from the Tampa Bay Rays in the division to the Baltimore Orioles. And it's just another data point in the... Now, there's been, I want to say, 7 or 8 different deals this winter that have involved starters being moved. And the big takeaway that I kind of have on all of this is I'm a little bit not shocked, but surprised by how much starting pitching costs. And sometimes it's even in guys who aren't amazing. Nobody that's been traded so far is a number one pitcher. I'd argue Sonny Gray is probably the best of all of the guys that got moved so far. Reminder, he went from St. Louis to Boston. St. Louis spent $20 million along with Sonny Gray. They got starter Richard Fitz, an Auburn man. They got him back, as well as Brandon Clark. And then they coincidentally made another deal to for Wilson Contreras to play first base in Boston, and part of that deal was Hunter Dobbins going back to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals have now brought in multiple starting pitchers for trading their own veteran starting pitcher and a first baseman. But when you look at all of these deals, right, you look at obviously the Gray deal, you look at all that. The Shane Baz deal is the one that stands out to me, one of the two that stand out to me for the cost that it took to get a good but not great pitcher. Okay. So for a couple seasons of Shane Baz, and to kind of explain who Shane Baz is, he lost all of 2023 to injury. He'd only made 6 starts in 22, and then he made 14 starts in 24. Pitched a career high 166 and a third last year. ERA was 4.87, but that's a bit misleading. He had a 4.37 FIP. He did a little bit better. I want to say it was, what was it? It was a 395 Sierra. And so, like, Baltimore said they're going to slot him in as the number 3, right? He's not going to be the number 1 starter. He will be behind Kyle Bradish. He'll be behind Trevor Rogers. He'll be ahead of Dean Kramer. And then after that, it's a lot of question marks for number 5. They're probably not done, right? Tyler Wells is an option. A couple of young guys, Cade Povich, Chase McDermott, Brandon Young. And I do think this thing for Baz is getting out of the minor league ballpark, Steinbrenner Field, where the Rays played in 25 because Tropicana Field was damaged by the hurricane. That Steinbrenner Field was 3rd in park factor for righties. He had a 386 ERA on the road, and a 5.90 at home, which means at Steinbrenner Field. He gave up 10 more home runs at home than away. And now he has the ability to go to a better ballpark for what he does. And Mike Elias, sorry, the GM of the Orioles, actually acknowledged part of the reason they went out and got Boz despite the ERA. Quote, we see a lot of underlying information in his statistics and his performance this year that suggests he had bad luck. A lot of it was driven by the ballpark the Rays were playing in. This is absolutely this is why on this show, I try to talk a lot about maybe not necessarily just ERA, but expected ERA and FIP and a lot of the components that go into getting your results, because your ballpark plays a factor. Sometimes just bad luck plays a factor. So a little side note there's a professional baseball team who gave up a lot to get a starting pitcher because they like the underlying information more so than his actual results. I know that listeners of Braves Today, you guys are great about this, but I still see it sometimes on social media. Sometimes if we get, a drive-by in the YouTube comments and they're like, your guys are really excited about a guy with an ERA of 5. Stop talking about ERA. That's not how we're going to evaluate these guys. Anyway, but the deal is pricey, okay? Slater DeBrun, Caden Bodine, both of those guys were recent first-round picks. One in 24, one in 25. Bodine was actually, I believe he was their second first-round pick, maybe, this year. As a catcher out of Coastal Carolina. I saw him in the Super Regionals in person. Fantastic receiver, good hitter. He profiles as a major leaguer. They also moved 2 other prospects, right-hander Michael Forret, outfielder Austin Overn. They also traded a competitive balance round A draft pick. I believe it came in right around number 31 or so. So they have 3 seasons of control. He was a Super 2 player, so he was in arbitration last year. He's projected for $3.1 million this year. And then they'll have 2 more seasons of control before he go to free agency. And it's a lot to give up for a pitcher that is good, but not great. He's throwing high 90s, 97. He broke out a knuckle curve last year. Thought it was really good. He's got a changeup. He's got a cutter. That's the 4 pitches that he has. He doesn't throw a slider right now. It's 4-seamer, knuckle curve, changeup, cutter. So there's room to continue to develop Shane Baz over the next 3 seasons. It's promising, but he's not a finished product. I would argue if he were to join the Braves, if you were to make this deal for Shane Baz, one, you don't have the outfield prospects or the position player prospects to do this. You would have had to go and trade a bunch of pitchers instead to get Shane Baz. So it's a little redundant. But I'd argue Shane Baz, you're probably slotting him in behind Ronaldo Lopez. He's your 5th starter if you get Shane Baz. He's not above Chris Sale. He's not above Pitcher Schwellenbach. He's not above where we think Spencer Strider will end up with a full healthy offseason. And he's probably not above Ronaldo Lopez. So he's your number 5, and he cost them 2 recent first-round picks, who I believe were both in their top 10 prospects, 2 more actual prospects, and a well-placed pick in the 2026 draft, in the top 35. I just pulled up the Baseball America Baltimore rankings here. Forret was 8th. And then again, DeBrun and Bodine were around the top 10. And so I'm just really shocked that this is the deal. And this is just one data point. There's a couple other trades. When you go through this, the pitchers aren't it's trades that don't have a significant money component. The Sonny Gray deal was a little skewed there because of how much money was owed to Sonny Gray. When you look at the trades that don't have a giant money component, it's amazing how much starting pitching costs. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Encase Cards, custom card manufacturer. These guys are fantastic. It's too early to buy. It's too late to buy something to get it for Christmas. But to make up for it, they have enhanced the deal they are giving Braves Today listeners. You go to ncasecards.com, ncascards.com. Use promo code Braves Today. Instead of 20% off, you will get 30% off between now and Christmas. What you do with the website, you or the person you buy a digital gift card for, you upload your source photo. You can choose holographic options, backgrounds, the text that goes on the card, right? U Sports was what I used it for, my son's T-ball team. So name, year, position, team name, all that stuff. Front and back, design the card how I wanted it. When I got the proof from Encase Cards, looked at it, made sure it was good there on the screen. If it's not good, they have white glove customer support that can help you. And then you submit it for printing. They print it on high quality cardstock. They slab it. They ship it to you in a plastic case that doubles as a stand. Again, ncasecards.com, NCASE cards.com. Promo code Braves Today from now to Christmas gets you 30% off your order. That's ncasecards.com. And thank you to our friends at Encase Cards for sponsoring Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsey Crosby talking about trade acquisitions and the price of some of this and how it's wild. Quick side note, though, I do love this for Baltimore from the perspective of if they want to keep spending money after signing Pete Alonso, right? They acquired Taylor Ward by trading Grayson Rodriguez. A lot of injury concerns there. That's part of the reason they gave up multiple years of Grayson for 1 year of Taylor Ward. But they can sign a Framber Valdez, a Ranger Suarez, or something like that, because the way that the qualifying offer works is it works off of, for them, your second highest draft pick, which was the number 46 overall pick. Now that they've made the trade of trading 33, their penalty, because I'm sorry, they're a lower payroll team. It would have been their third highest pick. I'm sorry. So instead of giving away 46 as their third highest pick, now their third highest pick is number 83. So if they want to keep spending money, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, whoever, would make a lot of sense because they'd be giving up a pick in the 80s, not a pick in the 40s, to lose if they signed a qualifying offer guy. Anyway, sorry. But like some of the other deals, there was a deal, it was a big 3-team trade. I believe it was on Friday as well. The Pirates sent right-hander Mike Burrows to the Astros. And Burrows, 11th round pick in 2018, he's good. He's not great. Last year, 23 appearances, 19 starts, 3.94 ERA, remarkably legit. It was a FIP of 4. So like right there in line with what he actually did, okay? 96 innings, 97 strikeouts, 31 walks, did give up 13 bombs. Little something to be worried about there, but it could have been a smaller sample size if you remember from the sample size show. 96 innings is not enough. I think it was 400 batters faced. I don't believe that's enough for your home run rate to stabilize. So a home run rate of 3.2%. Roughly MLB average. 3% even is MLB average, but that could still come down. But anyway, it's like 5 years of control of Mike Burrows going to Houston. The Pirates got Brandon Lau, the second baseman from the Rays, outfielder Jake Mangum, and lefty Mason Montgomery. Absurd package. Montgomery is just a filthy lefty reliever. I'd have killed to have Mason Montgomery on the Braves. Jake Mangum is a young, promising player. Brandon, veteran, 1 year control left. The Rays got outfielder Jacob Melton, and then right-hander Anderson Brito from the Astros. And then again, the Astros received Mike Burrows. So the Pirates sent out one starting pitcher, a promising guy, but somebody that would have been, I don't know, I'm going to guess probably their fourth or fifth best pitcher. They still have Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Braxton Ashcraft, Bubba Chandler, Hunter Barco. I think they have Thomas Harrington, and they'll get Jared Jones back at some point in time after Tommy John surgery early last year. So like they still have plenty of starters, and they get a starting second baseman. They get a 5 years of Jake Mangum with 3 full minor league options. So that third, like they have O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds in 2 of their spots. That third spot can be whoever. Could be Jack Suwinski, Marco Luciano. They got him from the Giants recently. They could send him to AAA. They could use Mangum at the major league level. And then one of the better relievers that's been traded this winter in Montgomery. And they got all of that for one pitcher that was probably the 5th or 6th best guy in their rotation next year. Again, he's not bad. For Houston, I mean, Houston needed pitching because so many of their guys have gotten hurt recently. But it's not like he's going to be the number 2 right behind Hunter Brown. I don't think. It's like Hunter Brown, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, Burrows is probably number 4. Again, not a great pitcher, but the package was really good. And there's some money concerns here too. Tampa Bay had to cut payroll. Brandon Lowe, whichever one it is owed a lot of money this year on his final year of team control. So like there's financial concerns here as well. I just checked real quick. It is Lau, rhymes with now. So it's Brandon Lau. My apologies, Brandon, if I got it wrong earlier in the show. He's owed, what is this? He's owed $11.5 million this year. But again, a very high price for a starter that is arguably not a frontline guy. Shane Baz could probably be a frontline guy, but you would not immediately, like he's probably the number 3 in Baltimore. Again, in Atlanta, he's probably the number 5. All of these deals, Johan Oviedo was traded to Boston from Pittsburgh for the Pirates for the password for Johnson Garcia. And he's went on with some other guys. They got another guy back as well. Luis Perales went from Washington from Boston. Yono Curiet went to Philly from Tampa Bay. The big takeaway I have on all of these trades where there's not a massive money thing like Sonny Gray is the cost is very high. And if you think about what Atlanta has to offer for trade compensation on a deal, Atlanta's thing that they can give you right now on a trade from the minor league system is pitching. That's virtually all they have to give you. Like Atlanta has a couple position players who have a little bit of promise, right? Nacho Alvarez, no longer a prospect. He's on his final option year, by the way, already. You've got a couple outfielders that some guys are high on, right? Whether it's Owen Carey, your 15th rounder in 24, Connor Essenberg, your 5th rounder this most recent year. A lot of people, I think too many people, are really high on Diego Torres, the international free agent from January 2025. He's not even 18 yet. He's not been stateside. Let's wait a second before we say he's untradeable. But like position player wise, unless you want to start dipping into last year's drafted guys like Tate Southesine, Cody Miller, etc., Atlanta doesn't have a lot of position players available. For your trades, you're sending pitching. And the guys that they're probably asking for, the 2 guys that teams are probably leading off their conversation with is Didier Fuentes or J.R. Ritchie. Obviously, Fuentes debuted last year. He's on the 40-man roster. He's got 2 options left. He's only 20 years old. He'll be 21 next year. J.R. Ritchie's 22. He'll be 23 next year. He is not on the 40-man roster because he's not Rule 5 eligible until next December, which is part of the reason I kept saying last season they weren't going to call him up to debut in September, put him on the 40-man roster, and exacerbate that roster crunch they have. But I'm trying to figure out who you can spare and who you could receive in a trade. And the way that these deals have happened tells me that some of the guys I think we want would not be available, but there might be some starters you can still get. Let's talk about it next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. College football playoff is in full swing. We got a bunch of quarterfinal games scheduled for December 31st and January 1st. Miami at Ohio State. That's the 31st at 7:30. Ohio State, 9.5-point favorite. Oregon at Texas Tech. Oregon's a 1.5-point road favorite. It's neutral site. I know, whatever. At noon on January 1st. Alabama at Indiana's a 6.5-point favorite against Alabama. Feels wrong to me. I haven't watched a lot of Indiana. I don't know if they're legit number one. I know Kurt Cignetti's the coach. That's literally all I know about Indiana. Call it SEC bias if you want. I find it hard to believe that Alabama would not at least cover the 6.5, if not win. And then Ole Miss is a 6.5-point dog to Georgia the night of New Year's Day, 8 p.m. Eastern kick. That'll be fun. If you want action on all of these games, FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsey Crosby. And I think the biggest realization that I'm having here are the most desired starting pitchers, guys who could be or potentially be frontline guys for you. The money situation means the prices for them are probably going to be higher than the Braves want to pay, right? Let's think about the guys who have not yet made it to free agency and are available. Mackenzie Gore, controlled for 26 and 27 via arbitration, projected for $4.7 million this year. One, he's in the division, but two, we saw the precedent with a thing like Shane Baz, what the compensation was to get him. That was in the division. It was 4 prospects, including 1 top 10 guy, 2 former first-round picks, including the second one who was on a non-Baseball America top 10 list. I can't think which one it was. And a pick just outside the top 30 in the draft. Okay. Do you want to make a similar package for Mackenzie Gore? Because, again, you can't trade that number 26 pick. It's not trade eligible. You can sacrifice it for a qualifying offer. You cannot trade that pick. Only the competitive balance picks can be traded. So you have to find a prospect to replace that pick if you do that. Same situation with Joe Ryan. $5.8 million salary, 1 more year of team control. Another situation where, was fantastic last year. Strikeout rate of almost 30%, walk rate of under 6%, looked really, really good. You're probably not getting him given the fact that it's under $6 million in salary. He has another year of team control. And reportedly, what the Twins are looking for is young, controllable pitching. Is it worth 2 years of Joe Ryan if you have to give up an equivalent package to this Shane Baz deal of something like Joe Ryan? I'm sorry, you're hitting Joe Ryan. Give up something like J.R. Ritchie and Didier Fuentes. Because if you think about this, Atlanta's projected rotation for next season, Chris Sale's your number 1, Reynaldo Lopez is your number 4, right? This is Chris Sale's final year of team control, and you've not yet signed him to an extension. So as of now, he is done after 2026. I'm still confident they'll work something out, but technically, free agent. Reynaldo Lopez is done after 27. In this case, Joe Ryan would be as well. Is it worth trading 2 guys that could be in your rotation as early as 27, like be up and stay up, as early as 27, to add 1 guy who could do it next year? And then, is it worth it? Let's keep going down the list. If you look at pitching, Freddie Peralta, another situation, $8 million club option for 2026. He would probably be your number 3 or 4 in the postseason. 176 and 2/3 innings last year, strikeout rate of almost 30%. He did walk 9% of batters, but 3 years of high quality innings, a plus strikeout rate, very good like swinging strike and whiff rates. fastball right around 95 miles an hour. There's a lot to like about Freddie Peralta. It would cost J.R. Ritchie and probably another top arm, Didier Fuentes and Owen Murphy, something like that. And he's a free agent after 26. If you make any of these deals, and it's going to take more than just those two guys, I'm saying it will take at least two of your top rotation options. Two of the guys that you're counting on in 27 to take meaningful innings for you, right? Ritchie and Fuentes, Ritchie and Murphy. I don't think you can make any of these deals and keep a J.R. Ritchie. I'm pretty confident you would lose J.R. Ritchie in any of these deals. Is it worth getting the cheap guy and giving up multiple of the guys we're expecting to start for multiple seasons as early as this year, but probably 27? Is it worth it? If you sign an extension, of course, absolutely it is. Freddie Peralta on an extension, even at market rates, which you can pay beginning in 27, to me, is more valuable than the unknown of a J.R. Ritchie and a Didier Fuentes. But if you can't get the extension done, I don't think you can make the low salary trades, right? You can't make the trade for Peralta. You can't make the trade for a Ryan, for a Mackenzie Gore, because the cost, especially for the multi-years of control, is going to be so high. And so if you're Atlanta, what you need to do, if you're insistent on adding a starter and doing it via trade, which I have a whole nother thing about keeping the number 26 pick. I've seen some people talking recently about how there's nobody good that's been taken with that pick. That's a very reductive way to look at it because there's good players taking the pick before and the pick after. That's probably tomorrow's show, is me responding to everybody who's like, the 26th pick has been bum anyway. Who cares? Move it. That's tomorrow's show. If I can remember, this tomorrow's show. You probably need to make a move for a guy that's owed money. Okay. Pablo Lopez. Through 2027, he's owed $43.5 million, just under $22 million a year. Now, we talked about this, I think, after the Ha-Seong Kim signing. That brings you dangerously close to the third CBT tier. Atlanta probably needs to get rid of Aaron Bummer and his $9.5 million to make that situation work. And honestly, you're probably, like, in that scenario, you're probably either at best getting nothing back for Bummer, or you're even attaching a fringe prospect to move him. But Pablo Lopez, $22 million. He's given the Twins 455 innings in the last 3 seasons, strikeout rate of just under 27%, walk rate of under 6%, ground ball rate in the mid 40s. Dating back to 2020, he's pitched 795 innings. He's not a number 1. He's clearly a number 2 starter. In Atlanta, he's probably a number 3, maybe a 4, depending on how Spencer Strider returns. I don't think the Twins would take Aaron Bummer back in the deal. $9.5 million. Again, their motivation here is to shed salary. But that's the kind of deal you probably need to look for in this situation. Given the prices for Mike Burrows, for Shane Baz, for all of these guys that have moved this winter, if Atlanta wants to make a deal and wants to add to the rotation, you're going to need to take on a guy with money. Mitch Keller, I don't necessarily think is worth it. To me, Mitch Keller, $54 million owed through 2028. It's kind of similar to like the Nick Pivetta deal. Mitch Keller's probably a little more attainable, but I don't think he bumps anybody down. Nick Pivetta is probably your number 3 or 4 here. Just the problem with this, Sandy Alcantara might be the sweet spot of he is owed money, but it's only $19 million in 26. And then he has a $21 million club option for 27. He's probably the midpoint of the cheap acquisitions of a Peralta or Gore. And the salary dump-ish acquisitions of a Pablo Lopez. Sandy's probably in the middle because it is a 1-year commitment. It's a total of I think the total commitment's 21 million because of the buyout. But you could have him for 2 seasons, right? That's the kind of the situation you're in here. Maybe the Reds want to move Brady Singer, 12 million bucks. But again, I don't know if he moves anybody down. I don't think he kicks anybody out of your rotation until you get to number 5. And that's kind of the issue here with a lot of these trades is Atlanta's really trying to walk a line. And the line is he needs to be good enough to push somebody out of the playoff rotation order. And obviously not everybody's going to be healthy when you get there, but if you assume as of now they are, Sale, Swollen, Buck, Strider are my 1, 2, and 3 starters in the postseason, right? So you've got to either be the number 4 or push somebody to number 4. And the issue you have is all of these guys who are paid like that, like not everybody who's paid like a postseason starter would be a postseason starter for us. But the guys who clearly would be postseason starters and are cheap are going to be too expensive from a prospect standpoint to acquire. I'm beginning to think that unless it's a guy that's really just being dumped on a money-wise thing like a Luis Severino, who does have familiarity with Jeremy Hefner, owed $42 million through 2027, but has an opt-out after 2026. Unless it's just a salary dump, right? $20 million this year, $22 million player option next year. Unless it's something like Severino, I really don't know if these deals get done. And I don't know if the Braves are able to walk that line and get somebody good enough to bump someone out of the rotation while not giving up so much that you endanger future rotations. And the goal is in future years to be able to trade position players. But right now, you can't do that. You don't have position players that people want. You just don't. We like John Gill. We like Alex Lodiz and Tate Southasine. They're not headlining any deal in 2020, like in the winter of 2025. They're not headlining the deal for anybody. They might be a throw-in if the other team insists on it, and at that point, just keep them. That's the hard part here. We'll see what the Braves decide to do. I'm beginning to think they may just stand pat. They may just go with the guys they have. Because again, you feel really good, assuming health, in your top 4, Sale, Schwellenbach, Strider, and Lopez. You have the option of Grant Holmes, Bryce Elder, Person, Waldrop are your next 3 options and your candidate for the number 5 role. You can option Waldrop to AAA. The loser of Elder and Holmes could go to the pen. And then in the season, potentially, depending on health, depending on how good guys are, there's 5 or 6 guys you could call out of the minors for starts. You could call Didier Fuentes. You could call Jose Suarez. You can call, actually, he's probably going to be the pen, but you can call Fuentes. You can call J.R. Ritchie, Blake Burkhalter. Maybe Lucas Braun gets there. There's multiple different guys that you could see Atlanta saying, hey, it's just about time. Maybe Owen Murphy makes it from AA to AAA and you try him later. Maybe Eric Hernandez, Cade Kuehler, Drew Hackenberg puts it together. Like you have a lot of options. And so I'm beginning to think they stand pat this winter. I don't think they pop a qualifying offer and move number 26. I don't think they find the right trade deal because, again, if you get one of those cheap guys, you have to extend him. You can't execute the trade without an extension agreed to. We'll see what Atlanta does. Let me know what you want to do. I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can leave a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, you're listening on audio. Heck, you can email us, contact@bravestoday.com. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.